welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, episode 39, take 2. So good we had to do it twice. Also known as Eric and Mike swing and miss with our last audio recording, where we torture our audience with some bad Mike, or not Mike Campbell banging around.
No, not bad Mike. Good Mike.
Bad microphone.
Good Mike.
Yes.
Bad Ronald.
So,
this is also known as amateur hour audio.
Yes.
Amateur hour audio. That's what we were doing.
We're going to make it up for you.
Yes. We're going over these things again.
Yes.
Clean audio.
Clean audio.
Not from a concrete bunker.
This time
from the warmth of a early 1900s home.
Right. Back in Casa Eric and the friendly confines of our normal recording studio. So,
yes.
To remind everybody.
Tonight we're covering,
yeah.
Again, we're once again covering numbers.
Well, this is the top 100 horror movies of all time. For the Scariest Things.
Tonight we are at
40 to 31.
40 to 31, and there's some nuggets in here.
This is home of the psychological drama horrors.
Psychological drama, otherwise known as outliers and horror, non-horror.
Yes, we definitely have a few
outliers.
of those. We have
outliers.
We have the big outlier, but before we get to that, we're going to recap once again some of the movies that we've seen recently, because realized that there's been some interesting stuff that's come and gone in the past few months or few weeks that we've been doing this Top 100 podcast. And
so what you seen?
Well,
what you seen?
I saw a real oddball movie called Dave Made a Maze.
Yes, Bill made a maze in his house.
While
his girlfriend was at work.
This is the gift that keeps on giving for Mike.
Out of cardboard.
So it's
it is one awesome looking film.
Yeah, it's an art house wacky horror film of a guy who builds a labyrinth in his one bedroom apartment, and
I absolutely want to see this. In fact, after we recorded episode 39 and we talked about Bill Made a Maze in his apartment, I went back and
Mike is going to totally confuse everybody. Just for the record, it's Dave Made a Maze.
I went back and looked at Dave Made a Maze, the trailer, again, and I thought, I really want to see this now.
It's funny. The grossness comes out of confetti and silly string, but it's not quite PG-13 because there's some cardboard genitalia that come into play, which is a little bizarre. So take that in mind before
cardboard genitalia don't count.
Right, bizarre stuff. It's a bit of an acid bath by way of IKEA boxes,
right?
And cardboard minotaur, cardboard guillotine. You get
acid bath, meaning LSD.
Yes, that kind of acid bath. Right. Although there is
to be clear,
they do jump into a vat of looks to be like the trash compactor from Star Wars.
Right.
But it's all origami.
You get to see in the trailer.
Yeah. No, it's really fun. It played at Popcorn Frights last year because.
So the big question is, did they recycle everything?
They must have. I mean, it's like,
they would have had to have, right? It would be irresponsible.
In my profession, it would be
as much cardboard as I saw. That would be
platinum.
Absolutely irresponsible.
Yeah, no, it is a landfill worth of cardboard in this movie, but it's I think going through the festival circuit for both Overlook and Portland Horror Film Festival, I started realizing that these festivals really vet their movies closely. They get hundreds of applications.
Right.
And it's all this independent stuff. And Popcorn Frights is one that's a bit far away for me to attend, but they have a good roster of stuff.
In Tampa.
In Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale, yes.
And
we originally told you it was in Tampa.
Yeah.
Actually in Fort Lauderdale.
Also known as Eric and Mike Charlatan Hour. It's like we gave you the wrong Popcorn Frights.
We give you the wrong address. We give you crappy audio. But you keep coming back for more. Yeah. So that's all we ask
because we love you, the fans.
And you love us, hopefully.
So Mike, you just saw a movie.
Yes. And I rather would have seen Dave Made a Maze. Dave Built a Maze. I would rather would have seen Dave Made a Maze because I saw, there's two films I saw, and both of them I have reviewed. So if you go to scariestthings.com,
1T,
our website where we house all this great, super awesome, scary, terrifying, frightful content. I saw 2 films. One was in the Conjuring universe, The Nun.
I saw that with you.
Eric and I saw that together. Valak, the nun, and this is her backstory. This is her origin story, sort of her origin story.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
and it kind of connects up very, very loosely. Kind of connects up the Conjuring universe a little bit. Connects up the 1950s to the 1970s-ish, roughly.
Right.
It's a ham-fisted pile of exposition that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, and it is rife with errors, rife with bad acting, rife with bad special effects, and rife with not a lot of scares.
No, it was jump scare dependent.
Yeah.
And not good jump scares either.
There's only one jump scare that really got me out of, 20 plus jump scares.
Because they telegraphed those jump scares.
Oh, they absolutely do.
This was junior varsity jump scares, and a lot of them. It was kind of like in bad comedies, they figure, well, if that joke didn't work, maybe the next one will. Kind of like this is the Tyler Perry of horror movies.
It is, and not Medea's Halloween.
Yeah.
Medea, boo, Medea's Halloween. It is not boo, Medea's Halloween, although I think I rather would have seen boo, Medea's Halloween, to be totally honest. Yeah. No, I think the other big problem with it is that, the treatment of the Conjuring universe is very secondary, right? Mm-hmm. It's like they didn't really think of a way to effectively pull it in, and so they do this exposition dump at the beginning of the film, they do an exposition dump at the end of the film, and they loosely connect those two things together.
Although in The Conjuring 2, Valak is prominent as part of Via Farmiga's backstory,
right?
And they definitely show the portrait of the nun, and so that's where they came up. They launched it.
You see the nun in the first one as well.
Yeah.
You see and you see. I don't know. I haven't seen Annabelle yet, so I don't know if Valak shows. Does Valak show up in Annabelle?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, Valak has showed up a bunch, and I'm glad. I think as we talked a little bit about, I'm glad that they went down this path. I think it's an important segment of the Conjuring universe to explore. They just explored it poorly. Speaking of exploring it poorly, the other film I saw is a film that's getting a lot of buzz right now that was actually released in 2016.
Okay.
And then Dead Central Presents brought it back, resurrected it in 2018, brought it back from the dead, or gave it a wider release. And this, of course, is the film called Terrifier, featuring, I think, a really, really horrifying looking
scary clown
creature named Art the Clown. Now, I'm sure there's a whole backstory with Art the Clown and why Art is named Art the Clown, but you really don't get any of that backstory. There's no provenance to Art the Clown, and frankly, there's no story in the entire film.
It's just
Terrifier is void of a story. The story can be summed up really in a sentence or two, which is a couple gals go out for Halloween night, they go drinking, they stop by a local pizza parlor on their way home, and they encounter Art the Clown, and then it's an hour and 15 minutes of torture porn.
So not my kind of movie.
not my kind of movie either. I mean, I'm okay if there's a story. I'm okay if you care about the protagonist. And I'm okay if you can actually sort of place yourself into the film. In all cases, on all counts, you can't do that with Terrifier. It's a really awful film. It's really grisly. And the biggest problem I had was that the whole concept of, the countenance behind Art the Clown, it's really scary. I mean, he takes on kind of a Freddy Krueger-like...
But he doesn't say anything, does he?
Doesn't say a damn word in the whole
same
film.
thing as Valak.
I know, Valak doesn't say shit. Art the Clown doesn't say... You know what? If you're going to have something that's so ridiculous looking and almost comedic looking like Valak, like Art the Clown, you gotta have a couple words come out of their mouth,
Or
at least a catchphrase.
Yeah, it is.
Come on, you gotta have a catchphrase.
What would you, if you were going to give Art the Clown a catchphrase? What would it be?
I'm
I'm sorry, I suck.
How about hello, boys and girls?
Okay, there you go.
That's clown stuff. Or
Sure.
I would go with hello.
So who is?
I
Wasn't there
suck also?
Yeah.
Yeah, Art the Clown Art the Clown. Terrifier is not a good film. I do not recommend it. A lot of people are going gaga over it. I think I don't know if it's like a generational thing or what. People are going gaga over Art the Clown, and I think they're getting tripped up on just the as I say, the countenance, the the pure aesthetic of Art the Clown, because it's creepy.
Do you think it's the hardcore horror fans who are interested in this, or the people new to the scene who are gobbling up anything horror?
Sadly, I think it's a pretty solid cocktail of both. Based on a lot of the stuff I've been seeing on Instagram and elsewhere. I think it's a cocktail of the two. And I mean, I will say, Art the Clown is a very, very scary looking character, but he is so wasted. Not wasted. The girls were wasted. He is his whole screen time
as wasted as Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes.
So,
hey,
politics.
Whoa.
Yeah.
See that would have been a good line for Art the Clown.
So I also saw a couple of the big studio movies that have come out in the past month. The first one being The Predator.
The Predator. Both of yours have the in front of it, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah, The Meg.
Yeah.
I saw The Meg and The Predator. And I both thought that they were passably good popcorn action adventure films. I don't think they aren't even close to being as good as their original source material. Well, if you say the original source material for The Meg is Jaws, nothing will ever get to Jaws level. I don't think that's a huge ask, but I think that you can get it to Deep Blue Sea for Meg.
Deep Blue Sea is awesome. And Jason Statham.
Yeah, Jason Statham punching a shark, man. I mean, it's like you want him to do it, and he does it. And
punching the shark the size of an airplane.
I know, and it's like it doesn't do him a whole lot of good, but it's the shark looks good. There's a big cast of characters. There's plenty of chompy shark action. It isn't as gory as I think a horror fan would want.
Sure.
It's not even as gory as Jaws.
Right. That's why you go see Terrifier.
you
get lots of gore,
and then you watch The Meg to wash it off,
or you watch Bill built a maze in his house, and you don't have gore.
Yeah.
You cleanse your soul.
But I thought and I've taken some heat for both of my reviews of The Meg and The Predator because they are
BDSL.
They're studio films.
Big, dumb, stupid, loud.
Yes. All of the above.
BDSL.
I think the big difference
that's
for...
our new shorthand. BDSL.
BDSL. Big, dumb, stupid, and loud. The difference with The Predator that makes it a cut above Aliens versus Predator, some of the bad knockoffs, is that the Shane Black dialogue is great. It's really... And it's actually one of the movies where the opening act is the best because it's where all we're getting the crew together. You get, I think, in our previous recording, I equated the group of misfits that gets together sort of as a Dirty Dozen,
right?
And I think that the characters are really nicely drawn, and there's like if you wanted to get your Telly Savalas, Charles Bronson. Components, you'll find them in this crew.
Where would you rank it against Deep Star 6 and Leviathan?
Oh,
Deep
man.
Star 6, Leviathan, Predator, The Meg. Dave built a maze, Volek. No.
This is, to be honest, they're all sort of in the same boat.
BDSL.
I actually think, I think for the production quality and the acting, I don't know. I mean, none of them have great.
I can never remember because. Deep Star 6 and Leviathan, I saw like a week apart of each other, and I can one of them's good and one of them's bad, and I can never remember which is good and which is bad.
I think that
they're both crappy now in retrospect. But one of them was good and one of them was really crappy.
So Deep Star 6 was
was that the ripoff one?
it was concurrent, right?
But one ripped off the other, like really ripped off.
And the Abyss came out at about the same time. It was like That's the trifecta. I think they were both.
Abyss was after. Abyss was after both.
Well, I think in traditional James Cameron fashion, he had been in production probably at the same time that those two films were done. They just did them quick.
And Dino De Laurentiis was like, I like the sound of this Abyss. I'm getting on that.
I'm going to get this massive barnacle monster and do the. I've got a soft spot for Deep Star 6 more than Leviathan.
And Deep Star 6 is where on
It's
Earth?
Not even. It doesn't belong in this
326?
list. It belongs with Zombievers, right? It's junk food.
It is.
And I think that. I mean, if you're really honest about things, I think the Schwarzenegger original Predator, it has a lot of junk food components to it.
Right.
It's big, dumb, stupid, and loud.
Right.
With big, dumb, stupid, and loud actors in it, and but it was fun.
Yeah.
And I think both. I think it has more. It was more original at the time, and so I think that you give a lot more credit to the original Predator.
Right.
This one gave it its best shot. I think it's like Alien, the Predators franchise. It's really hard to try and do something new. Right. You never know. Like Halloween looks like it could give you a fresh take on something that's been beaten to death.
We'll see.
So there we go.
So go see Dave built a maze.
Made a maze.
Made a maze. Dave made a maze. Go see Dave made a maze. Don't see The Nun. Don't see Terrifier.
And if you like big, dumb, stupid, and loud action horror,
go see The Meg.
Go see The Meg and The Predator. If you don't like that kind of stuff, you don't have to check it out. They'll be just fine.
All right, let's get to it.
All right,
Tonight,
now on to
40.
our top
40.
100. Number 40.
Yeah. 40 to 31.
This
tonight.
Is a movie that
Super
many of you know. Yeah, you know and love. This is The Omen, 1976.
Lee Remick.
Lee Remick, Greg Peck, and David Warner, and
Harvey. The kid.
Yeah,
his name is
the kid's name is
something Harvey.
Harry Stevens.
Henry.
Horatio Alger.
Horatio Alger.
No, Harry Stevens.
Harry Stevens.
His pretty much his only claim to fame is this movie.
Yep. He did do 2 other movies.
One of them was a sequel where he played of The Omen, where he plays
not a sequel, the remake.
The remake of the
2006 remake,
right? Where he plays remember what the character he was?
Reporter number 3.
So not a real big role.
A nice little Easter egg nugget for Harry Stevens.
Yeah, and then the other thing was a little throwaway film that nobody knows about.
And I've never seen and never even heard of.
However, Gregory Peck, lots of good movies in his past.
He did lots of good. And Lee Remick did some good films.
Yeah, stalwart. And David Warner, a fantastic character actor.
Yep.
And this is, it's the story of the ultimate evil residing in a boy.
Right.
And
a family trying to cope with said evil and trying to bond with said evil, which is near to impossible to bond with the child of Satan.
And some spectacular set pieces.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's the thing. I still go back. I look at The Omen. I've watched the trailer. I did not rewatch The Omen in prep for this episode, but I did rewatch the trailer multiple times. And of course, there's a million different cuts out there. There's foreign cuts, there's US cuts, etc. But there are so many big scenes in this film that all kind of get woven together with a great dread and doom, coupled with the subtext of, again, the parents trying desperately to manufacture this bond with the Antichrist, which, again, not possible. But yeah, such great big scenes. Your favorite?
Look at me, Damien. I do it all for you.
The nanny at Damien's birthday jumps off the roof of the estate, of the mansion.
Right. And then,
on the 3rd floor, breaks her neck,
and then starts swinging, and her knees curl up, and she's swinging in front of the window, and that's
they go to the church for a wedding ceremony, and Damien loses his cool, understandably.
Yeah. And then
they go to the zoo,
and the monkeys go crazy.
The baboons go absolutely bananas. There's so many great scenes. They, of course, one of the more iconic scenes, and probably one of the more terrifying scenes between a mother and a child, is where Damien comes rolling down the hallway in his big wheel. It might have been a green machine. I don't remember. Probably just.
I think it was just a tricycle.
It was his tricycle. Yeah. It comes rolling down and knocks Lee Remick off the banister, and she of course drops to the ground, but not before he of course peers through the banister, and essentially she recognizes that this child is indeed true evil.
Satan.
He is the Antichrist. I don't know if this is fact or not, but it's certainly, at least for me, as at the time I was a burgeoning pre-metal fan. I think I was still enjoying a healthy dose.
You were a punk man.
Earth, Wind, and Fire at that point, but it was one of the first. It was one of the first times I remember seeing the whole 666 concept, and that was like introduced in film, like because they part his hair, and then indeed on the back of his head is 666.
Yep.
And Gregory Peck is like, holy crap, the Revelations is true, and I'm holding the Antichrist.
Yep.
There's some great, if you like Rottweilers.
Yeah.
This film is packed with Rottweilers.
Packed, angry, bitey Rottweilers. One of the most interesting things about The Omen, I think, and it is one of two horror movies that I think gets attributed with being a cursed film. The amount of things that there was a death of one of the crew members.
Right.
There was a car wreck. That there were a number of weird anomalies that happened that were it seemed to plague the production. And actually, if are you familiar with? There's a podcast called Stuff You Should Know.
Right. Yeah,
they have a whole episode dedicated
on The Omen.
On cursed movies, but The Omen was one. The Omen and
neat.
Poltergeist were two movies, and we'll get probably talking about the other film at some point. But there were
mess with the devil, you get the horns.
Yeah, and of course they played it up. But there were some deaths involved. There was something about I think something like the Damien's name applied to a town or something. I'll have to go listen to it again, but go check out the Stuff You Should Know podcast and go look up cursed movies. It's fascinating listen.
All right, what do we got next? Number 39.
So, question for you, Mike.
The film whose name shall not be spoken. Yes.
Do you like hairspray? Do you like spandex?
Well, I like swarthy young boys, that's for sure.
There you go.
Who doesn't?
That's right.
Like a gaggle of swarthy young boys.
Do you like the name Corey?
Over and over and over. Lots
so
of
many
Corys.
Corys. This is the 1980, 1987 film, The Lost Boys.
Yes. Coming in hot at number 39. It's funny, I posted to our Instagram site, Scariest Things with a Z, not one T, two T's, one Z. I posted to our Instagram site a poster of The Lost Boys, and somebody, I don't recall who, commented, "This better be in your top 10." And I said, well, maybe.
What, The Lost Boys?
Yes.
Okay.
So that to me says there's a lot of Lost Boys love out there.
There's a lot of nostalgia for it,
and as there should be. I mean, because you're probably not going to find. I mean, obviously there's some of these films that are truly parked in a very, very specific era. Like if you go look at, I don't know, if you go look at Creature from the Black Lagoon, if you go look at Phantom of the Opera. I mean, those are very, very clearly parked in a certain area.
But
one is silent, for God's sakes.
But I think those two films are also transcendent. I think. They're still.
This is not transcendent, but it is parked in 1987.
This is a time capsule.
Oh yeah.
And
this
is MTV does a horror movie.
Yep.
And it did have the benefit of launching the career of Kiefer Sutherland. This is his first big starring role.
You know what they should do? MTV made a horror film.
It sure felt like it. Right down to the Echo and the Bunnymen covering the Doors. People Are Strange. Right. It was tailor made for a. I think not to. Sure. Well, okay. I'm going to reveal it. Yes. Marnie Oyen, our good friend, would have been a high school aged girl at the time, so she rates the Lost Boys very highly, and I think we've got a. I mean, if you've gotten to this point, you've gotten a good number of votes, but Marnie really enjoyed this one, and I have a feeling that this was really pitched at teenage girls, and it was probably the first vampire movie that did so. This is pre-Vampire Diaries. It sort of romanticizes the look of the vampire in a way
that after Dracula 72 A.D.
Yeah, it's
after Blackula.
So sexy. There's been a Nosferatu looking vampire, and then there's been of course the Dracula vampire, and that trope held for 60, 70 years, and then, Lost Boys kicked some of the expectations loose, and then allowed for things like the Anne Ricey vampires, sort of the
Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt,
the goth,
yes,
kind of, it's like brooding, sexy vampires.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think this is a film that could easily be remade.
Yes,
I think you could do a solid remake. With a 2018 aesthetic, it could be kind of interesting.
But you know what it's going to be? It's Cash from the Barrelhead.
It's going to be Twilight Part 6.
No, this will be called The Lost Girls. They're going to recast. They're going to gender swap it,
like the Craft. Yes, bring the gals from the Craft back.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised because there's
Lost Girls with a Z.
With LOZTGIRLZ.
Yeah,
Lost Girls. Yeah. So it's an anachronism. I'm not a huge fan of it. I can understand why some people are. Not my cup of tea.
It can be on the top 326 list. I don't think it deserves to be anywhere on the top 100 list.
Sorry, Marty. We love you.
It can be there. It can be there. 326. You get 326. You get that slot.
So on the other end of the spectrum, number 38.
Oh yes.
Well, we have
also a very obviously we spoke about the Lost Boys in a rather polemic tone. Mm-hmm. This is actually a fairly polemic or has a fairly polemic response as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are people that love this film, mm-hmm. and there are other people who go, "Meh, it's kind of stupid. It's boring. It's dumb." Yeah. I disagree. I think it's good.
This was on my top 25.
We were talking about the 2014 film that we saw together
at Mike's house, also known as the Cavern or the concrete bunker prison, where we had to record because whatever reason our audio recording went haywire.
Because there was a poltergeist.
There was a ghost
in the machine.
You're
listening to a cursed podcast.
Exactly. So,
yes, The Babadook, 2014. I think very solid film, mm-hmm. great thriller, great tension, great aesthetic, great interaction between the mother and the son. The mother is unhinged. The mm-hmm. son is super creepy. Yeah. It's so many wonderful elements to this film.
This is a study of depression.
It really is.
And I couldn't help but thinking as watching this film, it's like, if Amelia, the mother, it's like, if you just embrace pastels,
right?
So warm up the house. The house is in this gray greens, gray blues. Everything is
colors,
just
a seasonal
everything's
affective disorder lamp.
Yeah, and it's just like
some Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, just funk it up a little. Come on,
liven up your life.
little bit of Thai food, something to spice things up. But this is the oatmeal existence of grief and depression.
It's a very sort of blue gray film.
Yeah, but a heartfelt. And the boy Samuel mm-hmm.
A strange little dude.
Strange little, yeah. And at first you think that he is part of the source of the evil. He's
Right.
He's struggling. They're both coping with the loss of the father,
Right. Who dies in a
car crash for when Amelia was in labor.
Right.
And so the result of it is he never knew his father and doesn't know what to do about it. And she, of course, is heartbroken and sort of displaces some of that grief to some degree on her son.
Right. Honoring kind of the tradition of J horror, it's like it's the manifestation of grief. I mean, because there's so many of those J horror films where it's all about grief. It's the loss of the family member. It's the loss of civility within the family, and then that manifests itself in some sort of demon-like creature. The Babadook itself, I don't the Babadook, because I think a lot of people look at the Babadook.
They wanted a monster movie.
The
people who don't like this movie wanted a monster movie.
They wanted a monster movie, and they look at the Babadook and they say, "Oh, it just comes from a children's book, and that's dumb, and it's not scary." And in fact, the illustration of the Babadook isn't particularly scary. It's a little weird.
It's creepy.
It's a little off-putting. It's not terrifying. Like Terrifier, like Art the Clown. He's really scary. He's really scary looking. The Babadook is kind of like in that sort of middle spot. Not super scary. But not unscary either. I would say to all of that, that's very much beside the point. The point of the film is the interaction between the mother and the father, or the mother and the son, and how they deal with grief.
Yeah, and the grief manifested as this.
That's a terrifying prospect. That is a super terrifying prospect,
and
it really gets at you.
Put Jennifer Kent on the map. She's got a new movie coming out.
Ooh, good.
It is
2019.
2019. I think it's making the festival circuit right now.
Ooh, I want to see
I don't recall. It's a period piece, an Australian western, I guess. So not a horror movie.
Okay.
I think that this kind of like.
Ty West did a western.
That's right.
So who knows?
It's kind of funny.
Maybe that's the chronology of horror directors. You start off with a solid horror film, and then you move on to westerns.
Yeah, and on a little sort of an aside, there is a new horror western that has been making. It went through TIFF called The Wind, which is coming out. And looks a lot like Babadook in the way that it's.
And you can see the Wind trailer
on ScariestThings.com.
On ScariestThings.com.
Yeah, I think that the Wind director. The reason why I bring it up is I think that movie. Has a lot of that isolation and depression kind of aesthetic that's playing into a woman alone trying to cope with and I think there's a miscarriage or something like that. Similar kinds of feelings of loss and grief.
Right.
So if you like Babadook, stay tuned for The Wind.
And if you like loss and grief, number 38 is got 37 is chock full of loss and grief.
It's all about loss and grief and how you cope with it badly.
This is maybe we'll call this the best Stephen King adaptation with a little asterisk. Pet Sematary, of course, 1998. No, sorry, 1989. 1989. I transposed the two. We will say Pet Sematary is the best Stephen King adaptation, save for The Shining, which is really the outlier. That's kind of the masterclass in Stephen King, and Stephen King hates the movie, so we won't call The Shining the best Stephen King adaptation. We will call Pet Sematary the best Stephen King adaptation, because it really is. There's this film is really solid top to bottom, great acting. You of course have
Fred Gwynn.
Herman Munster plays a really wonderful role as the doting Maine neighbor who lives across the way. This of course is the basic story is love, loss, redemption. A little boy is killed, and they decide to use some old timey
Indian burial ground
magic to resurrect.
First a cat.
Well, they try the cat, and the cat stinks like hell.
Yeah, and it's like why they didn't figure out
because the cat goes to hell.
Yeah. So
and the little boy's name, do you remember the
Gage.
little boy? Gage, yes.
Gage Creed. This is the Creed family.
Yes, Gage comes back to life, and he's not quite right.
No. And then and he's a little stabby and
right.
But there's also the there was the ghost of or the Victor, who's
Right.
the corpse who's come back and warns like, don't do it.
Right,
It's
right,
like I
right.
said this, and it's like, no, it's my boy. I gotta. If there's even a chance, it's like, oh, don't. It's like you're holding it all too close, and just bad decisions, because this was something that we had talked about multiple times.
Yep.
One, because in our very first podcast,
Best dads in horror.
it was like there was Best Dads, where with Dale Midkiff, who plays Lewis Creed.
Right. Scariest scenes.
Yeah.
The sister with spina
yeah,
bifida.
well, it's like if you want to see someone whose skin's pulled a little too tight to her skeleton. Yeah.
If you want to see me clinging to the ceiling, show me that scene. I will be up on the ceiling.
Yeah. So this comes in, and this is Mike Campbell's number 2 movie.
Number 2, I will say, it's funny is now looking at it with, because this came out in 1989, Lost Boys came out in 1987. Lost Boys is incredibly dated. I watched Pet Sematary recently, or within the last year or so, and it is not that dated.
No.
It looks, obviously there's, some bits and pieces that look dated. They don't have smartphones.
Right. It's not covered in Bon Jovi sauce.
It is not covered in Bon Jovi sauce, which
like
is one
the
of
Lost Boys.
one of my favorite descriptions of all time. No, there's no Bon Jovi sauce on all this.
Yeah.
It's a solid classic film that hits on all the elements we've talked about tonight: love, loss, redemption, grief.
Just and a great sort of the dramatic tale.
Yeah.
It is so easy to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
And the temptation of what they're warned. I think that the unfortunate thing is that Judd should have known better to tell him about the pet cemetery, and though he warns him, it's like
Well, that's the reason I like this film so much, is because I know this is like we're really splitting hairs here, but a lot of the films, like a lot of the J-horror films that deal with grief and all that kind of stuff, it's like it slowly unfolds as to why they're dealing with that grief, and then you learn at the end of the film what specifically why that is. In this case, you actually get to see what happens, and then they are warned against trying to deal with that grief, and they go ahead and do it anyway, which I think is like, it's that added oomph. It provides a little bit more exposition, and it's much more powerful because you're being told not to do it, but you are so compelled to do it. You do it no matter the odds.
Well, because I know that when we had the Bad Dads episode, both you and I both listed Dale Midkiff as the or the Lewis Creed, rather.
Lewis Creed, you're right,
Dale
right.
Midkiff being the actor,
right?
As you had him as best good dad, I had him as best bad dad,
right?
Because I thought it's like it didn't work for the cat, so why should it work for the boy? It didn't work for the boy, then why should it work for your wife?
It's just telling. That's
like-
parents will do whatever it takes for their
Fool
child.
me once, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, I'm a dead man, right? So,
all right, let's move on to number 36 on our list. This, of course, is the 1986 film and the outlieriest of the outliers.
The champion and
Of the outliers.
the undisputed champion of horror or not on this list.
Yes.
Blue Velvet.
Woo!
Okay, hot take. And there is
I take it's a horrifying film. Still not sure if it's a horror film.
we I got a chance to rewatch the film because this actually lands. The reason why it's here, and I think I sort of briefly mentioned that if you've gotten to this point in the overall list, we're talking about films that have gotten 5 or 6 or as many as 9. We're going to hit votes on from our 30 jurors.
A lot of people dig this film.
This one got 2
big votes.
Big votes.
Big.
It was number 1 on Scott Alley's list, and Scott is our friend who is the editor of the famed comic book Hellboy. Also wrote Hellboy. And then Joseph Perry, who is one of our distinguished horror writers, who writes for Gruesome Magazine, Diabolique, Ghastly Grinning, and about 4 or 5 other horror publications. And so it's not like these people don't know their horror.
Right.
They explicitly know horror. And I think Joseph had told me that, because he and I went back and forth when I threatened not to list this on the big list. And I said, well,
I know. I was shocked when you told me. I thought, man, Eric is really authoritarian.
Yeah,
I didn't realize this was his list.
Eric makes a list.
Eric made a list.
But I think one of the rules that when I asked for submissions on this this top 100 was open criteria, and if there's any doubt about it, if either Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or Wikipedia lists it as a horror film, I'll count it, because I wanted to broaden the scope. And I went,
and they did.
IMDb does not, Rotten Tomatoes does not, Wiki does.
Interesting.
It says Wiki calls it a noir thriller horror. Okay. And it's like, it is absolutely noir. It is absolutely a thriller.
Thanks, Julian Assange.
Yeah. I suspect Russian meddling.
Yeah, I do too. When I posted the other hot take, hot take part 2, when I posted the film poster of Blue Velvet to our Instagram page and posited the question, is this a horror film? A certain Scott Alley said, sure as shit is. So there you go.
Yeah, I think
there you go. That's all you need to know about Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet. The other thing I was saying that given the time that we last recorded this, and now re-recording it.
Yes.
And the political moment that we are currently at. There is something very poignant about a sadomasochistic sexual abuser, and one of the most bizarre villains that you will run into behaviorally. Brett Kavanaugh in Blue Velvet.
Brett Kavanaugh jokes should not be funny, but they...
You fucking fuck!
They kind of are. Brett Kavanaugh jokes should not be funny because it's not a laughing matter, but, for some reason right now...
Tongue firmly in cheek, as we say.
You have to laugh. That is the only way. That is the only way you can cope with what's happening.
But in all seriousness, I think that Frank is the Dennis Hopper's character when he's abusing. He's just acting just brutally against Isabella Rossellini.
Right. And you know what's interesting about this film too? I didn't mention this when we first talked about this, but David Lynch spent quite a bit of time in Spokane, Washington, and this was in part kind of his model for the film. Spokane, Washington was kind of the model for the film, and
then later on, this became a model for Twin Peaks.
And for those of you who have never visited Spokane, Spokane is really the embodiment of Blue Velvet. Not that Frank
Lumberton.
Not that Frank is running around the town, but that it's a very clean, quiet, white, middle class, wholesome looking community, but then right under the surface are meth addicts and skinheads and prostitutes and rapists and all sorts of nastiness.
Just the underbelly of Lumberton is really, really sick.
Yeah, and
Dean Stockwell, a bizarro.
Oh yeah, you always forget that Dean Stockwell was in this.
Oh, he's so creepy.
Yeah, and of course the mayor of Portland.
Kyle MacLachlan, mayor of Portland, from Portlandia. I think in this Me Too movement, if you were, you and I may see it and not see the absolute horror in it, but I think there are a number of women who might see this movie and say, horror movie.
No, I think it's a really really adroit point, and I think When you had said that to me the other day, I really reconfigured my thinking on the film, and I agree with you. I think, again, it's like for me, it's on the edge as to whether it's a horror film. I think it's more of a thriller film with horrific elements.
Yes. I completely agree with that. But I think if you're going to make an argument for it being on a horror movie list,
that's the argument. That is the argument.
It's
kind of a gender-based argument, right? And it's an interesting one, and I totally buy it
because the helplessness of
Isabel
Dorothy.
Oh
and she sort of succumbs because he's kidnapped her son. And meanwhile, Jeffrey Beaumont, Kyle MacLachlan's character, hiding in the closet, watching, somewhat impotent, as Frank just manhandles her, and it's just it was really hard to watch.
Yep.
It was hard to watch back then.
You actually sat down and rewatched it.
Yeah, I mean
that's impressive. That's impressive in and of itself.
I hadn't seen it since college. You know, not even mentioned that. It's like me and Chris
a couple years ago.
I wish. You know, I think, but there was, like, I remember our colleagues just quote. It was, the movie was eminently quotable, and David Lynch at the time was the hotness.
Right.
He was, all of a sudden, this movie put him into the auteur kind of level, and then soon after Twin Peaks, and it became a sensation. So anyway, so that's
all right.
Blue Velvet, the hottest take of our of the list.
The weirdest take of our list.
Yeah, I don't know. Again,
maybe it's on the top 100. I don't know.
think it's a. I think it's a great movie.
I'll go 175.
It's like higher.
I'll go
lower, higher.
I'll go 175. It's right next to Zombievers and Bill Made a Cardboard Maze.
You haven't seen that yet. You can't even rate. When you see Dave made a maze, it might make your top 100.
All right, let's move on to number 35. Totally shifting gears.
Yeah, so
completely shifting gears.
This is
our sixth, maybe more.
Yeah, of comedy horror.
Sixth comedy horror comedy. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Let's see. What have we had to this point? We've had Zombieland. We've had
Young Frankenstein.
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Return of the Living Dead.
Which is my favorite.
Yeah, and let's see. I think we're probably missing one.
I'm sure we are.
Spooky Encounters.
Spooky Encounter and Zombievers.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Right. That's not funny. Monster Squad. There's some funny elements.
So but we've come to one of the horror comedies that
this is at the peak.
Yeah,
this is the tip top.
Almost. We got one more coming up, but if you ask people about horror comedies, a lot of people go, "Oh, like Shaun of the Dead." It's like, yes, like Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. Yes,
it is a funny. It is. It's one of those movies that's equal parts comedy and horror, as opposed to sometimes it's like Return of the Living Dead is a horror movie with comedy elements.
Right.
This one is much more of a balance, and it is our introduction to Nick Frost and Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. And
who does a wonderful Clyde from Every Which Way But Loose impersonation, the orangutan.
And there are so many individual scenes. But I think hello. And if you know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about.
Yep.
The record chucking scene, and
it's 3:00 in the fucking morning. And you know what? One of the other things that's great about this film, wonderful soundtrack.
Yeah.
You've got Queen. Yeah. You've got
Don't Stop Me Now. That was the big
Grandmaster Flash. You've got some of the music that that Goblin had done for the original Dawn of the Dead is in the film.
Nice.
There's at the time in 2004 there was an up and coming sort of brash young rock band called Ash that kind of took the UK by storm. A couple of their songs are in it. I mean, it's a really solid soundtrack, like top to bottom.
And this
and it runs. The soundtrack really drives, in a lot of ways, drives the film.
Yeah, and it has the best "Make Like a Zombie Walk" ever put on film. It doesn't shy away from the gory bits either. I mean, there's some. It brings the blood. It satisfies all of your horror impulses and all of your comedy impulses.
And you know what? The other thing I really like about the film too is it takes you back to 1978 with Dawn of the Dead, because I mean, effectively, what Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright are talking about is, whereas they were talking about commercialism, this is talking about sort of like this is like commercialism through a new prism of
It's almost like The Office.
well, the digital age,
Yeah.
right? And how people have become so disconnected from
Right.
from one another,
Yeah.
and that is so it's the same take, but it's a slightly different take, a much more nuanced take, and I think it's really well done.
Well, I think some of the best gags in the early part of the film are when there's like individual zombies sort of staggering around and they just get passed off as drunks.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
oh, whatever.
Right.
Just they move past and and you know, they don't really pick up on it, or the fact that his mother says, well, somebody came over and was talking with Philip, and went they're a bit bitey. It's like, Mom. It was just
And of course, she went on to do much more fame and glory with Downtown Abbey.
Downtown Abbey.
Downtown Abbey.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know that we've got a whole lot of Downton Abbey fans here.
But if you are,
Like,
Downtown
they're
Abbey is
actually
a solid TV show.
I think we would be remiss not to say hello to all of our British fans. We know we've got a
Yes.
lot of you out there.
Thank you for
Thank you
for Downtown Abbey.
Yeah, and Shaun of the Dead.
And most importantly, Shaun of the Dead. All right, let's move on to number 34, a film I haven't seen, so I'm just going to let you take it away.
34. This is a new vampire film, or a new take on vampires. And like we talked about with Lost Boys, sometimes the vampire genre can get kind of stale and repetitive. This is a 2008 film from Sweden.
And this was not the remake of Lost Boys.
No, the Ragnarok.
Which I'm still advocating for.
This is Let the Right One In.
Right.
Also, our friend and podcaster Roberta Pennington.
Yep.
From Starkitects, her number one film. And
Wow, Roberta, that's bold.
I would like to
bold.
I would like to thank Roberta for putting this at number one, because
Would it not have made it had she put it as number one?
No, I think
Or it
it
still
would
would've made
have
it.
dropped down the list a ways. But
Okay.
I think if we're looking at this, it
Bunch of people.
definitely would have made the list.
Okay.
It would have dropped 25 points off of it. It would have been
right.
it would have been in the 60s or 70s
Okay.
somewhere.
All right.
And it totally deserves to be on the list.
Yeah.
It is
it looks really, really good.
It's a story about a little boy who's bullied, and the new girl who comes moving in, just so happens to be a vampire,
Right.
And he befriends her in kind of this interesting way, where they're sitting out spending time in the snow, and where he's lonely and is just messing around with his Rubik's Cube, and she's just bored and starts talking to him, while her minion is out poisoning people and trying to cut their throats open and drain them of blood for her.
Right.
And so she doesn't want to have to go out and hunting and killing for herself, because she's when Oscar, the little boy, asks Ely how old she is, she goes 12 roughly. And it's like, and by roughly it's like she's been 12 for a very, very long time. And so that she's sort of locked into her age,
Right.
As a vampire. But it's a story of friendships as he starts beginning to figure out that she's a vampire, and how he reacts to that, and how how she's trying just to survive by having her minion going out there and gutting people.
Right.
And it just becomes everybody's paranoid about the finding people strung up in the trees and that
Right.
kind of a thing.
So
And
isn't Melania Trump, correct me if I'm wrong, she's from Transylvania, right? Donald Trump is getting bullied.
right. And so
I'm seeing how this all fits together.
he
yes.
is a
she's-
pawn
she-
of evil.
And she has started the be better, be best campaign.
Yeah, she's
this
still-
all makes sense.
Right, for a woman as old as she is to look as good as she does.
Yep.
there's
Let the right one
something
in
that's
is
like,
allegory for the Trump administration.
there you go.
Maybe. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah,
We
I
don't know.
I would not want
So
to
it-
smear "Let the Right One In" with
No.
with the Trump
No.
stink.
God no.
So-
so would you put this based on your viewing of it, in your very recent viewing of it? Would you think it's parked in the right spot in the 30s, or do you think
Somewhere between 30 and 50.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
I think it seems right. I think it's a fresh take. It's beautifully shot. Mm-hmm. The story is it's a foreign film, so you always, anytime you get into a foreign film and you're doing it subtitled,
You got to put on your thinker.
Yeah, but it nabs you within the first 10 minutes, and you're in, and you're
Right.
and you're sucked into the story. My number one rule, as I've always said, is do you care about the protagonist? And in this case, the protagonist is also the evil thing.
Right.
But Oscar and Ely are wonderful characters. They've actually done a Broadway stage production in New York, which has been very, very successful because it really it's a 2-character study
Right.
with, and then they have the surrounding bullies and minions and parents and stuff like that. But it's this. I wouldn't say it's underseen, but even if you're not a fan of vampire movies, it's a compelling watch. It's a lot of it's a. I wouldn't say it's heartwarming.
Sure.
I mean but
you know,
it's a tale.
but I think it's an interesting point you bring up too. This, one of your number one rules, like whether or not you are drawn to the protagonist, because like almost all of our films, that sort of axiom really comes to play in. Numbers 40 to 31, save for The Lost Boys, which is like, if you're drawn to people named Corey, if you just fundamentally care about people named Corey, you might care about The Lost Boys.
So we're at number 33, and this is the 2016 film The Witch.
Double V, The Vitch.
The Witch. And we are looking at a 1600s era film that was shot period style.
Yep.
That
A little religious disagreement
in
the community.
when
Gotta
you
move on.
when you are holier than thou than the rest of the Puritans in your community, you're awfully pious or you're an idiot. And William, the father of a family of 7, decides that he is holier than the rest of the community,
AKA the idiot.
because he feels that God will provide for him in the wilds of Massachusetts
In the 1600s,
in
the
winter. And
What could go wrong?
yeah, granted, you're not going to grow much in Massachusetts in that rocky soil. This is not farmland.
No.
At the best, you'll get a couple of apple trees.
And he is dragging along a family of 7.
Right.
And
And
including his companion, the satanic black goat.
Black Phillip.
Black Phillip, the satanic black goat.
And we're, I think the movie kicks off very quickly.
Very, very quickly, yeah.
With,
like almost in the opening sequence, they are literally leaving the compound. They're leaving the compound to strike out on their own, and in the very, very first sequence of the film. And in fact, that's like the first thing you see when you watch the trailer.
They get on their knees and they pray to God to bless the soil. Ain't nothing much that God can do about Massachusetts earth because it ain't gonna grow crops. And they are ill-equipped for this.
Yep.
And they are tested very, very quickly when the baby, who is being watched by
Thomason,
Anna Taylor-Joy's teenage girl,
Yep.
who was given the responsibility of caring for her baby brother, was playing peekaboo, and lo and behold, baby nabbed by a witch.
And the family dynamic quickly falls to pieces.
Yeah, and this
quickly falls to pieces.
the witch here is a MacGuffin, where she's the driving plot, where she steals the baby, she eats the baby, kind of in a side moment, but she's really not the centerpiece of what the horror is. The horror is that the family, the bonds that keep the family together, erode extremely quickly, and they turn bitter, and they start blaming each other. The father can't provide for the family. He's ashamed. He takes his boy out to the woods. They can't find anything. Don't tell mom. There's
and in a Arthur Miller Crucible-like twist, the boy becomes possessed by Satan.
Yeah. Who could be Black Phillip.
Who could be Black Phillip. Who could be the boy's own psychological pressures of dealing with...
Right.
Just dealing with the issues of the family drama, family tension,
Right.
the fact that
the fact that he actually went out in a fit of bravery, trying to provide for to try and track down the wolf. Because that's what they figured. The wolf must have taken the baby. They wouldn't.
Right.
They didn't suspect a witch for a while. So they made an excuse that it was a wolf. And so Caleb, the boy, goes out looking for a wolf and finds a super hot witch in the woods.
extra hot.
Who I think Mike has. I love Mike's description of.
If you need to know what the witch looks like, you just Google "sexy witch costume."
Yeah.
Get into Google "sexy witch costume" and you will see what the witch looks like.
Yeah, all busting out at the seams, super hot witch, and
Super hot witch.
And she gives Caleb can't resist and
Turn on your safety filters.
right when you go looking for sexy witch,
Super hot, sexy witch costume.
don't blame Mike if you stumble across something that's not safe for work.
Right. All right. What else can we say about the witch?
I think that the authenticity.
Yes. We didn't touch on that. That is a very, very interesting piece in the fact that they chose to stick with very natural kind of period type lighting, which provides for a very, very, very dark scenery.
Very much like The Revenant, where they're using natural daylight only or candlelight when shot at
Swap
night.
out the bear, insert witch.
Exactly. Well, and a goat, and a crow, and a rabbit. Actually, they make a rabbit kind of creepy, which was, hey, that's a
new one.
Monty Python's got a teeth a mile long, or whatever. There it goes. So they the other thing is that it is devoid of music. They have artisanal period clothing, and they speak in the old tongue,
and everything is handcrafted as it would have once been.
Right, and I think and it's super heavy on the drama.
Yeah.
Super heavy on the psychology. It is very much a modern horror movie in that way. Belongs right in the same neighborhood as The Babadook, which we just talked about, and Hereditary, and even something like Let the Right One In. Yep. It's a quiet, somber, dreadful piece. It is less. It's no real big jump scares, but there's lots of looming tension. The family falling apart. The little kids are creepy. The goat is creepy. The rabbit's creepy.
The witches are creepy.
Yeah, and
the father is quite kind of creepy.
Interesting,
as is the mother. They're all creepy. My God,
I thought that William.
What a lot.
When we first get introduced to the characters, I thought William was going to be the tyrannical father, but he's not the tyrannical father. He's just the ineffective father.
Right.
And he dooms his family due to his ineptitude, which was not what I was expecting.
No, not at all.
So, I think it's a superbly crafted film. It's not. I wouldn't say it's an enjoyable film.
Right.
It is extraordinarily well made. It's very A24.
Yeah. Yep.
In that it is an independent movie with a lot of tight storytelling and scripting and great acting, but not like super. Just like the effects, and it's not a really showy movie. So it depends on what your flavor is. I thought it was a great movie.
Yep, I do too. All right, let's move on down the line to number 32, Night of the Living Dead.
What do you need to say about Night of the Living Dead? It is.
All right, let's go to number 31. Night of the Living Dead is that good.
It is. It's a
broke the mold in so many different ways.
It's a landmark.
It is.
George Romero's. Did George do anything prior to this? This was his.
He did. I think he did a lot of commercial work.
Yeah.
Prior to this.
Right.
I don't think he did not do a feature length film prior to this, because then I think the next thing he did was either The Crazies or, gosh, it's got witch in the title. It's got witch. I can't even think of the name of the film now.
Oh,
Yeah,
the biggest Romero fan.
I know, jeez.
Mike.
I know we've been podcasting way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much podcasting's happening. But no, this was definitely his first film, Season of the Witch.
Okay.
There it is, Season of the Witch. I can't remember whether Crazies or Season of the Witch was first, but they were like right kind of on the heels of each other. But yeah, Night of the Living Dead is a wonderful film. There's several documentaries about Night of the Living Dead. One that came out a couple years ago, which I do highly recommend folks take a look at because it really peels back all the different layers of Night of the Living Dead, all the subtext, and then it gives you all of the sort of cultural touchstones and explains to you, the viewing audience, all of the different sort of pop culture pieces and parts that still carry forward from Night of the Living Dead. And there are a lot of them. This film was just so amazingly influential.
Modern horror owes a huge debt of gratitude to George Romero. This was the first time zombies were depicted in this way. What we all know about, like White Zombie and I Walked with a Zombie, dealt with walking corpses, but they were not malevolent or cannibalistic in the same way. This was, the
very
vicious
very,
zombie
very
horror.
Take. Yeah, very new take on zombie. And the other thing too, and I know. Obviously the Grindhouse era predated Night of the Living Dead, but this really got into some sort of Grindhouse sort of elements. Yeah, that there was a lot of gore. Yeah. I mean, they were dealing with some heavy duty gore. The interesting thing about Night of the Living Dead is that it is now completely out of copyright. You can pretty much get Night of the Living Dead.
You can YouTube it.
You can pretty much get it any which-a-where. And the reasoning was because there was a little snafu when they turned in the screenplay. They had a slightly different wording. This came about in one of the documentaries about Night of the Living Dead. But there was like slightly different wording on the screenplay versus the final print, and it was like almost like as soon as it hit the theaters, it was like out of copyright.
Like, was it something as simple as A Night of the Living Dead and Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. It was something really stupid like that. Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead and Jimmy. Oh, we forgot that part.
Right. And George Romero was like, no, it's still my film, and they were like, nope.
Oh, the tragedy.
Yes.
It is
before you had mountains and teams of lawyers ready to go to bat for Avengers 4.
Yeah. Well, this film is the template for all serious independent horror directors.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
In a way that, we talked about Sam Raimi and The Evil Dead, who followed George's template, kept it simple.
Just Blair Witch Project, I think is another great
Paranormal
example.
Activity.
Do it yourself. Yeah. And pull in your family, pull in your friends. Pull in your friends of friends and friends of family.
You don't need to do it in Hollywood.
No.
Do it in Pittsburgh.
Do it in Pittsburgh. Yeah, do it in rural Pennsylvania, and you can get it done.
Yeah, and this is one of those fulcrum moments in horror where you can say this is the horror genre up to Night of the Living Dead, and then after Night of the Living Dead. It's hugely important. It isn't necessarily it doesn't have the best dialogue. It's not a spectacular story, but it touches on some story elements that
is kind of a spectacular story. And I think it's not known because I think it's like people focus on the gore elements, but I think it's really known as, I think it plays out like a drama, like a play.
That's true.
And I think the story is great because you have all this subtext of racism in the Vietnam War and everything else that's really, really interesting and wonderful and kind of progressive for the time.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in the Bad Dads. Where Harry Cooper was the head of a nuclear family, and that was I think it was really turning that idea of the strong father figure and the submissive mom on its head, and really examined that as whether that that's still a viable construct to a certain state, or what can happen if that goes wrong, because he gets overly protective, and when
And in case you're wondering, Harry Cooper, bad dad.
bad dad,
All right.
and not to be forgotten is the most wicked ending of a horror movie of all time.
Yes. So go watch it since it's out of copyright. Just jump on YouTube and watch it.
If you're new to the genre, this is really the go-to movie.
This is the ultimate gateway, and the Scariest Things podcast is your gateway to the tropes and trends of the horror genre. We are giving you the biggest of the gateways.
Yeah, it's wide open. This gate. The gate is unlocked. Walk through it.
It is it is unlocked. It is not copyrighted. It is available for you for free right now.
Watch it over and over and over.
All right, get into our last film tonight, number 31, Curse of the Demon, a.k.a. Night of the Demon, a.k.a. Cursed Turd.
Well,
we'll get to Cursed Turd. Yeah. We will get to Cursed Turd.
Well, yeah, you kind of you spoiler alert.
That's the punchline.
Yeah, this is a 1956.
56. Yep.
It's a dramatic horror piece, and it deals with quite literally the science of psychology pitted against the arcane demonology, and whether you can cheat fate, whether you can whether you can explain all things scientifically, or whether there are some things like a curse that you can't explain. And there is a Dana Andrews plays our hero in this case,
the resident debunker,
and he is the sort of Scully in this equation. I don't know if we actually have a Mulder per se.
But we have the woman,
Peggy.
Yeah, the young gal. Yeah,
who's willing to go along with it. Niall McGuinness plays Dr. Carswell, who is the friendliest Satanist you'll ever run into. He's quite charming.
He is. He's got a lovely goatee,
and but he just happens to be the oddball next door in the big mansion, and he just so happens to be a Satanist, and nobody's really concerned about that. But they know he's kind of quirky.
Yeah.
And he also happens to have a tome of evil for which he summons demons to kill his opposition.
Yep.
And the demon is spectacularly done.
It is a great demon.
And it's done sparingly.
We're not talking about Asylum of Satan demon. It's a very different demon.
Asylum of Satan tried to use like it was the Walgreens version of
same sort of look, but very, very different.
Yeah, it was the silliest mask ever.
Yep.
Night of the Demon, Curse of the Demon, probably what you know it most from is the poster, which shows the demon head.
Right.
But it really doesn't make itself apparent until the closing sequences, and there's like an opening sequence where you see it rush out and kill Professor Harrington
pretty early on. That's like that kind of sets up the whole the whole precept for the film.
Again, bookends it.
Yeah,
and in the middle you get a lot of this exposition heavy drama discussion of
little Satanism, little demonology, little witchcraft,
and then this hot potato of a script that you how did they get the script? The parchment.
Oh yeah. They went to when you could actually do this. Now you can't. They went to Stonehenge and did a little rubbing off the side of Stonehenge, got the parchment, and then the curse was complete.
Because those Stonehenge ancient Britons were a bunch of devil worshipping heathens.
Yes, Satanist witchcraft, demonology, peddling.
Yeah,
heathens.
And so then what John Holden, the Dana Andrews character, once he comes to terms with the fact that after spending the bulk of the movie trying to explain things from a psychological standpoint, realizes that the curse is real, plays this funny game of dodgeball with this script, because the last person holding the script
gets the demon.
Gets the demon, and old Noel McGuinness gets the cursed turd put on him.
The cursed turd, a.k.a. the cursed turd.
He gets the turd in the pocket, and then demon comes and gets him. I smell something funny, and you're it.
It is a wonderful punchline, and I think out of all the films that we have that we've discussed so far, numbers 100 to 31, I don't think there is a film that actually kind of has that same sort of great punchline in it, right, where it's like, I got the parchment. I'm screwed.
Tag, you're it.
Yes. The only thing I can think of that rivals this or comes close in the same in the same sort of way is, of course, Drag Me to Hell, the Sam Raimi film. Same kind of punchline.
Sadly, Drag Me to Hell not on the list yet.
I know,
And I don't
Didn't
know.
even
We're
make
running out of runway.
Didn't even make the top 326.
It got votes.
Oh,
but,
good. Oh, good. Thank God.
Yeah, because
Got
that is
couple,
that
yeah.
is a lot of fun.
It is.
And lots of vomiting and bugs and Sam Raimi-isms.
Yep.
But back to Curse of the Demon. It's a beautifully done, shadowy noir movie that really feels like it's about 10 years. It's actually almost I don't know if it was considered to be an homage at the time, but to the Val Lewton movies of the 1940s.
Yeah.
Movies like Cat People and Seventh Victim and I Walked with a Zombie. It belongs right with those movies because they did a lot of stuff where you had to, because of the Hays Code sort of being fresh in effect. Hollywood had to suggest and not be explicit about killings and violence and stuff. But you could address. Apparently, Satanism wasn't a taboo.
Satanism was perfectly legit.
So I think that was. It felt like a movie kind of out of time.
You can talk about Satanism, just don't show a boob.
But you can. And you can have a cursed turd.
And you can have a cursed turd.
So,
all right, let's quickly go down the list one last time, starting with number 40, The Omen.
Belongs on the list, absolutely. I think it might even be a little bit low at number 40.
All right, number 39, The Lost Boys.
Woo! Nope,
not on the list.
Sorry, sorry, Marnie.
Moving on, number 38, The Babadook.
The Babadook. I think I had the Babadook on my. It showed up on my list. Yep. I'm saying it's there. I think it's about right actually where it lands at 38. I think
I'm going 10, 15 lower.
Okay, but on your top 100.
Oh yeah, for sure. Number 37, Pet Sematary. I'm going a bunch higher. You're going.
I think it's about right. Maybe a scotch lower.
All right, and number 35, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, you passed a big
number
one.
36. Well,
it's kind of, what do you do with Blue Velvet?
Is it a horror film? Yes, that's why I passed it over.
Yeah, it's
a big old fat question mark.
Yeah, it is it's a good movie. Horror movie, kinda. I don't know.
We had people vote for it, so it's number 36. Number 35, Shaun of the Dead.
I say, it's one of my favorite horror comedies.
I would say. Well, I think Return of the Living Dead is still my favorite, but this one is pretty damn high up there. All right, number 34, Let the Right One In.
I think it's the right spot. I think it's new to me, but I loved it. I think it was a beautiful.
I only hear wonderful things.
You've got so you have A Quiet Place and Let the Right One In still on your shamed list. I've done my duty. I saw The Birds and I saw.
But you refuse to see Martyrs.
Oh boy, we might get a special guest interpretation of Martyrs coming up.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I would like that. Yeah,
because Liz put Martyrs as her number one, and she's coming up for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, and I'd love to get her take on it to defend her number one.
We'll have to record with Liz. All right, number 33, The Witch.
Yeah, maybe a little high.
Yep.
But I think it definitely belongs on the list. It's a modern classic.
Yep. Shave the last 10 minutes off it. It's a top 10. Number 32.
Night of the Living Dead. It could go higher. I'm looking at the movies that are coming up.
It would have to push a couple things here and there, but
it could move up a little. But I think 32 is respectable.
I'm going 5 spots up.
Okay.
And then finally, Curse of the Demon, a.k.a. Night of the Demon, a.k.a. Cursed Turd.
This will be a Mike Campbellism that will live forever and ever.
Cursed Turd.
I love this movie.
Yep. Cursed Turd covered in Bon Jovi sauce.
And I won't get tired of Bon Jovi sauce. Thanks for... You may have listened to this a second time through. If you had to listen to it the first time, number 40 aired, or 39 aired, and it was a microphone bashing mess.
Yes.
We appreciate you giving it another listen. And give us a thumbs up on iTunes, Stitcher, Blueberry, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to this. We'd love to get your input because the more likes we get, the more it rises up the old Google charts, and the more stuff we can get for you. So until numbers 30 to 21,
watch out for the Cursed Turd.